Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's live. What are we going to talk about today? Well, I'm going to talk about VAWA. That is the Violence Against Women's Act. But just so you know, men can apply too, even though the word women is in the name. And I'm going to talk about the type of abuse that qualifies in order to apply for this type of visa. Okay? Because there's some discrepancies and misunderstandings about what kind of abuse is necessary, and sometimes people qualify, but they're afraid or they don't think they do, and they continue basically to be abused without applying for the relief that they qualify for. Okay, so then what I'll do is I'll go back, I will answer whatever immigration questions you guys have. So if you have an immigration question now, just put it. You don't have to repeat it. I have sometimes people that will repeat the same question like 12 times because I don't get right to it. But I will get to it. As soon as I'm done with my spiel, I'll go back. I will scroll back up. I'll see whoever asked the questions, and then I'll answer them. Okay? And then when I'm all done, that'll be it. And I'll go do my consults. All right, so let's get started. So just as a summary, VAWA is a type of petition where someone has been abused by a certain relative or party, and they have either no legal status or temporary legal status, or their status is going to end. And because they are a victim of abuse based on this situation, they're able to basically apply for the green card. So they apply for VAWA. If that's approved, then they can get the green card. Okay? So that's the bottom line of what VAWA is. So generally, we're talking about a spouse. Okay? Although VAWA also applies to children. So, if a parent abuses the child, that also will qualify. But the vast majority are when someone, male or female, is married to a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident. Okay, so here's the first myth about it. They think, a lot of people, that abuse means they have to be physically abused over and over and over and over again, and then only when they've been abused so much will they be able to apply for VAWA. Let me straighten this one out. First of all, that's not true. There is nothing in the statute that says, for example, you have to be abused physically 10 times in order to qualify. No. It doesn't say that. You can apply for VAWA after being abused a single time. One time. Okay, one time's too many. One time's too many anyways, but you can apply after one time. Now, it's of course your burden to prove that you've been abused. So, if you've been abused multiple times and your declaration goes into it and goes into all the times that happened, it might be more believable than after only a single time. But if it's done properly, then after one time, if the declaration is sufficient and if it is detailed enough and if they believe it and so forth, then you can apply for VAWA after one time of physical abuse. Now, what's the next myth? The next myth is that you have to call the police station, and if you don't, then you're not going to get it. Well, that's not true either, because a vast majority of people who have been abused are afraid to call the police station because they think that they'll be abused more, or they think they'll be kicked out on the street, or all the threats that go along with the abuse, okay? So that's not required. Again, it's a matter of proof. So if, in fact, you're afraid to call the police, that all has to go in the declaration and so forth. Another myth is that people think that when you do a VAWA application, you need some kind of signature from the person who abused you, or they will find out you're doing this. And that also is not true. You do not have to say a thing to the person who's abused you in order to apply. Okay, now, what's the next myth? Okay, the next myth is that emotional abuse doesn't qualify, and that's not the case either. Emotional abuse does qualify. You can apply for VAWA without a single item of physical abuse, and if there has been sufficient emotional abuse, then you're eligible to apply. And same thing, you don't have to apply after years of emotional abuse until you're driven into the ground. You can apply again after a single time, although with emotional abuse it's very difficult to show a single time, but you can. Okay? I mean, generally speaking, if someone is emotionally abusing you, they're not going to just do it one time and then say, adios. Okay? They're going to keep doing it. And the emotional abuse, it can vary. I mean, it really can vary. It can be financial. It can be threatening deportation, all kinds of stuff. And a lot of times when I'll do a VAWA for a man, that will be based on emotional abuse a lot of times. And so whether it is emotional or physical, it only requires one time, okay? Now, again, keep in mind that it is your burden to prove the abuse, whether it's physical or emotional or both, okay? I mean, if there's both, you put it in the application. But it's your burden. So if you send in an entire application and basically say, I was emotionally abused, and that's basically all you put in there, well, obviously that doesn't meet the burden of proof. That's not going to happen. That won't qualify. Okay? So it needs to be detailed. It needs to be quality. Now, when I submit a VAWA application, what I always do is I get a psychiatrist or psychologist to interview and make an analysis of the situation, then give a nice professional report of why there was emotional abuse or why there was physical abuse, what psychological harm has been done, and so forth. That just adds to the burden. It shows that you have done what you need to do in order to try to get it. Now, when you're filing the VAWA application, just so you know, you can also file the adjustment at the same time. And a lot of times I don't like to do that because if the VAWA is denied and you need to appeal or do a motion to reopen, the adjustment will be denied also. And believe me, immigration's not going to give you your money back. But if it's a good case, then, and also many times the person abused has to have a work permit, you can do both at the same time. I always make the VAWA as strong as it can be. And I know that is no pleasure going through and rehashing what has happened. But when my firm does the declarations, the proposed declarations, we have to go into great detail about what happened, when, why it occurred, why it was abused, and so forth. Okay. And again, you can have stuff like financial abuse or threats. I mean, there's times where the spouse say, well, if you, do this or that, I'm cutting you off from all money. Okay. Or I've had ones that they actually, it's almost like false imprisonment. They keep them in the house and they can't go out. They can't talk to people. They can't see any friends, things like that. Okay. So given that is how you properly prepare a VAWA. And the main purpose of this particular live is so that you can see that, number one, you can have either physical or emotional or both, and you don't need to have a whole string of them. You can have just one. If your spouse pushes you, slaps you, one time, that can be it. Okay, and you can apply. You don't have to live with someone who's doing that. And that's why they make it, I'm not saying the burden is easy, but that's why they make it so that the amount or the necessary burden is less than with a lot of other types of petitions, okay, which is a good thing. All righty. Let me go back to the beginning and see what questions, if any, we have. Now, if you do have questions, now's the time to ask. Because when I get to the bottom, that's when I'm going to say goodbye, and that'll do it for today, okay? So let me see what we have. If anybody wants a consult in front of anybody else, in front of everybody else, you let me know. And I will give the consult, okay? But of course, you understand you're waiving the attorney-client privilege, obviously. Okay, let's see. So a lot of people that joined, but I'm scrolling down to see what questions we have. Oh, thanks for the rose. Okay, I get a little cha-ching every time that happens. Okay. All right, this is from Sandy. How long is USCIS taking to whoops? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, how long is USCIS taking to respond? And they received, I mailed everything over in May. Okay, Sandy, I don't know what you're applying for. Okay, it will depend what you're applying for. If you're applying, for example, for a VAWA and they've received it, on average, it takes 6 months to a year. Sometimes less, sometimes more. It depends on the adjudicator. It depends on what jurisdiction you live in. If you're doing an adjustment of status, that's different. If you're applying for a change of status, that's different. I mean, there's, 200 different things you could apply for, so I need more information what you applied for, okay? Then I'll give you a better chance. But just so you know, May, June, July, August, September, October, okay? We're talking 5 months. In immigration terms, that's a drop in the bucket, okay? That's not long, regardless of what you applied for. All right. And Taiwo Hayes got the #1 gifter badge, which means you're going to be asking me a question here, right? Okay. Let me just scroll down here, see what we have. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kissy. Okay. Just a minute. I mean, we have a lot of people that joined, but I have to sift through. Okay, here we go. This is from Kissy Martinez. Hi, Brian. I got my green card through VAWA over 15 years ago. I'm not starting as I think you're saying I'm now starting as an immigration attorney? Well, I'm not sure, I didn't catch the end of your question there, but if you're saying, which I think this is what you're saying, that you did give VAWA over 15 years ago, which is great, congratulations. I think you're saying you've gone to school and now you're law school and now you're starting as an immigration attorney. If that's the case, congrats. That is great to hear. A long path it has taken, but you will know more than many immigration attorneys the difficult path that needs to be taken in order to get to that point. Okay? So good for you. If that's not what you're saying, well, let me know and clear it up. Okay? But anyways, good for you anyways. Okay. Let's see. I'm just scrolling down more of the names here. Thank you, Kissy. I got another rose. Okay. Let's see. All right. You should give us your office phone number to call. Well, here it is. 562-495-0554. Do you know how many times I've said that in my life? Like 10,000. Okay, let me see if I skipped any questions here. Okay, this is from Popkin. Sir, please, what do you understand of the time frame parole authorization? There's a lot of different kinds of paroles. Okay, there's the humanitarian parole. There's the parole in place. There's paroles depending what country you're from and depending upon the regulations at the time. There's paroles that have been revoked because of that. So I need more information what kind of parole you're trying to apply for in order for me to give you a time frame. Okay? And just so you know, more and more paroles are being revoked. More and more places that used to give paroles are not. I have people who say, well, I got advanced parole. Is it safe for me to leave the country? And maybe yes, maybe no. As it stands right now, the way things are, you could have parole approved now, go on vacation to see your mother for 2 weeks, and then have it revoked before you come back. So it might not be the safest thing to leave on parole at these days. Okay, just if you can, regardless of what parole, just try to stay in the U.S. and do everything you can to get the green card, okay? And then once you get the green card, you will be able to leave without issue, okay? Alrighty. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, this is from Dua. How long does it take to get an interview after biometrics for a marriage-based case? Some of that depends where you are. Okay, obviously, if you're in one of the more popular areas, let's say LA, Miami, New York, Texas, it's going to take a lot longer than, for example, if you're in Alaska, Montana, South Dakota. Okay, on average, once the biometrics are done, you're looking at about 3 to 6 months. Okay, but again, that depends on where you are. Now, I want you to understand, though, because you're looking when the interview is, that you have to have a good case. Okay, you have to be prepared. And the way things are today, you might want to consider having an attorney go with you, because if you happen to get one of these people that are on the attack from the moment you walk in the door, having an attorney is going to be a lifesaver. Okay, that's the reality. Sometimes I've gone into interviews, and I'm not kidding you. Sometimes I've gone into interviews, I don't have to say a word other than good morning or good afternoon, and nothing goes wrong, because they know that we know what the law is, that we know what they're not supposed to ask, and that we can jump in at any particular time. That's just a reality. It's unfortunate, but sometimes officers will take advantage of someone sitting there, an immigrant, and will go off left edge trying to get them to mess up or whatever, and then ultimately deny the case. Okay? So that's that. Let's see. Now, Popkin, you asked the same question like 4 times. See, I got to you. You saw, right? I answered you. Although you do need to tell me what type of parole you want to get to. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, let's see. Just a second. Oh, Kissy, you are a lawyer from the California bar. Congratulations. Do you know? I don't know what it is now. Okay. I don't suspect it's much higher than when I took the bar. But when I took the bar, good Lord, it was 33 years ago. How old are you, Kissy? Are you older than when I took the bar? 33 years ago, I took the bar. The bar passage rate was about 46%, which means, obviously, more people failed it than passed it, okay? And people know that walking in. Everybody who goes to law school, especially in California, knows the low bar passage rate. But, they have to have the drive and the oomph to get it done and to study and to not let... That's one thing I did to put my mind at ease. I stopped looking so much at the statistics, okay? And you just have to, put yourself and do the best that you can without looking at the statistics, okay? Because otherwise, if you look at the statistics and that's all you look at, half the people who go to law school wouldn't. But congratulations. I wonder, Kissy, are you going to be an immigration attorney? You know the path, don't you? Okay. Let's see. Murad. I applied for the U visa in 2018, and I received last year that I'm eligible, but only that they give 10Y, which I assume means 10 years. Okay. I think what you're finding, Murad, is that it takes 10 years in which to, the backlog now, which is sad, right? I mean, they give 10,000 U visas a year and they're backlogged for 10 years because there's so many victims of crime. Is that crazy? I don't think any other country on the earth would have that issue. What I do recommend is that you can do a bona fide determination, okay, and get a work permit during this time. You should do that. But also, a lot of people who qualify for U may also qualify for the T. And there's no backlog on the T. Believe it or not, they issue 500 a year and they never use them up because nobody knows about it. But if you're a victim of trafficking, whether it's work, sex, or some other kind of trafficking, you can do the T visa. And you can do it the same time you do the U. It doesn't matter. It's like two horses going around the track. First one to the finish line wins. Okay? Dua, you're in Georgia. Did I answer a question for you, Dua? I think I did earlier. Can I adjust? Okay, this is from Popkin. Oh, I see. You didn't even ask the same question. You said, can I adjust status with an interim parole authorization? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, parole has given you authorization to come into the U.S. for some reason or another, but it doesn't automatically qualify or mean you can adjust if you don't qualify to adjust. So I need to see more about your case. Murad, when will I receive the approval? Murad, you can't assume that you're going to have an approval. That's the mistake. Just because you filed the U, and just because they said it's going to take 10 years, doesn't mean it's been adjudicated and doesn't mean it's been approved. Okay, you need to make sure you have a quality, good case in order to make sure that, you have a better chance of success. Okay? All right. Let's see here. I think we're close to approaching the end. Let's see, 1 second. Let me just scroll down a little bit. Oh, I'm 45. Oh, Kissy, you're 45. Your testing and passing was in the 50s. You had to take it twice, yes, on immigration. Hey, that shows gusto. Congratulations, seriously. Okay, I hope you do well. Okay. You know what my story was, why I went in immigration? I used to do, a long time ago, insurance defense. God, I hated insurance defense. You would even win, right? And nobody was really happy because it was like just a money judgment, and it was just the company. Nobody was really happy. So, I decided to look at, there was an abridged version of immigration law. Okay, it was like 300 pages. And I thought I might be interested in it. And I read it, and it was super interesting. And I got a job. It was really weird. A job opened up that was half civil litigation, which of course I had experience, and half immigration, which I did not. And I got that job. And then from there, I got only immigration. And then I think 3 years later, I opened up my own firm. So there's my story. Okay. Let's see. Murad, you're saying you have a strong case, but you might want to run it by an attorney because everybody who does their case thinks they have a strong case. Okay. I think that does it. Alrighty. Well, I hope everybody has enjoyed the live. Hey, can I ask something here? I have 802 hearts, likes. Can we get it up to 1,000? I wanted to make sure that with the live today, oh, thank you guys. I wanted to make sure that with the live and the VAWA, that it's crystal clear that you don't have to wait until things are so bad you can't do anything else. Well, thank you very much, guys. Got up to 1,000. So do what you can, okay? to make sure that the application is as strong as it can be when you file it. And I know we're talking about VAWA today, but that's any application. Don't think just because you file it that the approval is going to come through. Okay? You have to have a strong application. All right. With that, I hope everybody has a good day. And until the